What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host.
Family.
As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me to round out our tour of the NFL with the NFC East and the NFC North is my lovely co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. NFC East, more like NFC least.
Got their ass.
Got him.
Wow. Got him.
Got him.
Got him.
And we're Dak. You know what I mean?
You had me. You had me, then you lost me. So, uh,
And conveniently, we're not starting with the Cowboys.
conveniently not. Uh, but yeah, rounding out our entire tour of the NFL before training camp starts on Monday. As you're listening to this, so it'll be a good precursor into training camp on Monday. So let's get after it. No more fluffing about. Starting with the Washington Commanders, a dismal 4-13 last year, bringing up the rear in the NFC East. Uh, had a lot of turnover this offseason. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, they did fire Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron.
You're correct. You know the current coach of the Washington Commanders.
Oh, it's somebody I
I love this
should
game.
know. I don't
I
like
love
this
this
game
game.
because it happened so long ago.
It's a
Um,
name he's coached before. I'll give you
yeah,
that.
is it Dan Quinn?
It is correct.
Let's
There you go.
go. I'm not
Quinn.
totally stupid. Um, but yeah, their big offseason acquisition, rather like addition, drafting Jaden Daniels to lead their
Mhm.
football team. Number 4 pick in the draft this year, if I'm not mistaken. Second? Was second. Yep, you're right. You right. Also, they got Drazon Newton in the draft, the guy that we had fawned over in our draft pods as well, a D tackle out of Illinois. Also drafted Luke McCaffrey, notably, I don't think related to Christian. Maybe, I don't know.
I think he is.
I think it might be. What was Christian's dad's name? Because he Bob, right?
Ed.
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 I don't
Did you
know.
say Bob?
I did say
Bob
Bob.
McCaffrey?
Bob
That just
McCaffrey.
sounds like a Midwestern salesman name. Bob
That's
McCaffrey.
probably why I assumed. But in other departures for them, I shouldn't say other, but in departures for them, they lost Curtis Samuel, who was weirdly good for them last year, having had a good season despite having Sam Howell throw him the quarterback. They lost Kendall Fuller to the Dolphins. They lost Logan Thomas to the Niners, as we talked about last episode. They lost Jacoby Brissett to the Patriots. Their backup, but I did play enough. Um, they also lost one of their linebackers, Cody Barton, to the Broncos. I think that's really about it for high profile um, departures. Excuse me. Cameron Curl was a safety we looked at a little bit when we did our free agency pods. He left for the Rams, but other than that, nothing of significance or otherwise significance for them. So, but turnover was good for them because they were bad last year.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't think it's gonna be that much better.
I don't.
Um,
It might be like I could see them being better with a new coach. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of the Commanders era of Ron Rivera tenure. Like I think he was good in Carolina while he was there, but I just don't think they had a QB to make it worth like that offense should be good with the people they have with the players they have on it. Like it should be good. On paper it's good. You
a
have
rookie quarterback, Terry McLaurin, who's good, but
Jahan Dotson,
just
who was good his rookie year, was not good last year. They have Brian Robinson at running back to now go with Austin Eckler. Like they have a couple of weapons. It's not like it's slim pickings out there for the Commanders. They also have Zach Ertz at tight end, who like is obviously well past his prime. Like as a it hurts you to say that Jordan as a 33-year-old as Zach Ertz is only 33, but
yeah.
but he was obviously better in Philly and was okay in Arizona, and then signs with the Commanders this offseason. I don't think their line's terrible. Like they have a couple of good guys there.
Uh,
No, or am I totally wrong?
they they took on a lot of sacks last year. I think it was like a league like historic amount of sacks.
Maybe I guess I'm wrong then. I recognize names on the list. Maybe is why I'm
Yeah, getting like what's his name? He was from Wisconsin, went to
Michael
Cowboys.
Dieter. Or no, Tyler Biadasz. I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry, Tyler.
Tyler Badass.
Yeah, that's close enough. But
That's
they, but they had him and Michael Dieter both went to Wisconsin. Michael
yeah,
Dieter is
like their
there.
offensive. I'm trying to find their offensive line stats because I felt like Sam Howell like got sacked like 8 times a game.
They do remember something like that.
Sam Howell got sacked 65 times last year.
Jesus Christ, that's not good. So yeah, I was wrong. That's almost 3 sacks a game. That's a lot.
That's really bad.
Um,
I just think rookie quarterback. If they made some improvements to the line to the offensive line, it's not like they didn't.
right.
But really, like Bobby Wagner, 34. We're just talking. We're gonna be ageist right now. Bobby Wagner, 34. Zach Ertz, 33. Um. Uh. Excuse me. They're just like they're either really young or they're really old. They're trying to find like people like in their prime veterans. It's year one under a new coach, under a new regime in total too. And for what it's worth, like this could be a division that is competitive with 2 teams, 2.5 teams, and we'll get to the half right after this one.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's their time. I don't think it's their time.
I
I know
don't think.
Jane Daniels is the reigning Heisman candidate. He still wasn't picked first, obviously,
Right.
based on Caleb Williams.
I don't think.
Uh,
Sorry, keep going.
no, no, you go. I just
Us-
kind of, yeah,
I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be better than 4-13 than they were last year. Like I think there's a possibility that Jaden Daniels has like a similar Anthony Richardson um, impact on this team, in that he's just a better quarterback than the guy that they had playing. Like I don't I have there was we talked about this during the draft process. All of the QBs outside of Caleb Williams had concerns. Like Jaden Daniels as a mobile quarterback, is he able to stay healthy while running the ball? Very similar to Anthony Richardson, who was also putting his shoulder down and hitting guys as a quarterback, and it cost him as such with a broken collarbone. Um, so like if Jaden Daniels can just like be a decent enough rookie quarterback, I think they can have a better season. Like I think like good for this team would probably be like 6-7 wins. I think that's easily achievable for them with this
yeah. That seems
offense.
like that's a good ceiling.
Right. And it's not like they have like bums on defense either. They have Dante Fowler Jr., they have Jonathan Allen, Frankie Louvu, like you said, Bobby Wagner. Like they have guys to play, right? And so like I said, I don't think they'll be bottom of the barrel. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, obviously, either. I just think they had like
No,
a decent enough offseason. Like Dan Quinn is an established coach. He was obviously I think I forget where he was before. I think he was the D coordinator for Atlanta. And then he went and no, he was the D coordinator for the Seahawks. Went to Atlanta to coach. Then was the D coordinator for the Cowboys, and now coaches the Commanders. And so
yep,
like he's bouncing around a little bit. Might be one of those like mid tier head coaches that we talked about, like guys that are way too good to be coordinators but not going to be head coaches. So we'll see with this round of Dan Quinn. But I think he's a good coach for them, frankly.
yeah. I mean, we also had to remember who was it that they were trying to go after? They went after a coach.
They probably went after the
I
Ravens
think
guy, McDonald.
no, it was Ben Johnson,
Oh yeah, the Detroit guy. Yeah,
Lions offense coordinator,
who wanted like all of the money
and
and
they
all the King's
were
ransom.
mad.
Yeah,
They were mad. That's where it's like I don't know. I feel like Dan Quinn is a good. I think you're spot on where he's overqualified to be a coordinator. You get a baseline from him as an NFL coach, but we
hmm
saw those Falcons teams outside of a year where Matt Ryan went, just supernova, and they
right.
go to the Super Bowl. And
And then
I'm
what
not gonna
happened?
bring, I'm not gonna bring it up. They Atlanta fans don't need to be reminded.
What Atlanta fans are listening to this?
Um, Arthur Blank.
If Arthur Blank is listening to this podcast, Arthur, we need some sponsorship dollars, buddy. I appreciate you
Yeah,
listening to the pod, but
Bum, bum, bum,
Ta-
ding, bum, 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 ding, bum, bum, bum. That's my theme song of a current property that he owns.
okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
No free ads. Anyway, I just think it ultimately might be the same era as the Ron Rivera era,
It
which is
certainly could be. Like
yeah,
I don't disagree with you. I just think that like if Jaden Daniels is the type of uh quarterback that they want him to be, then they'll be just fine kind of thing. Not this year,
yeah.
but in
That's the
future years.
in future years. Yeah,
So, all right. Moving on to the New York Giants, that half team I presume you're talking about, right, Jordan?
you're correct.
They had a interesting offseason for sure. They lose star running back Saquon Barkley to their division rival Philadelphia Eagles. That's probably their biggest departure. They they let go Xavier McKinney, then and the Packers happily picked him up. Um, they're like one of their only, I don't I should say one of their only good because he was hurt often, but Sterling Shepard, their former receiver, left to go to Tampa. Um, a couple other I'm trying to see. Ashawn Robinson went to the Panthers as well. Paris Campbell, a guy they picked up on flyers from the Colts, went to Philly. Like I don't think this team got much better whatsoever. They end up signing former Packer John Runyon Jr. They did. Um,
They
they traded for Brian Burns, right? And then
yes, they did.
they franchise tagged him. It looks like here.
No,
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 they gave him a
no,
big.
no.
It's so
They
over
gave him
the
the big deal.
okay over the cap like says franchise on it, so that's why I assumed.
He
Um,
got 5 year, $141 million contract with 87.5
sheesh,
guaranteed.
sheesh, main. Um, so yeah, they boost up their defense that way, so that's good for them. Other than that, I don't like see a whole lot of like super good moves for them. Like that's a good get for them, but
You're also
man,
forgetting Malik Neighbors at sixth overall.
yep, that's good. And then
He
Tyler Newman
might
at
already
safety
be
to
like their most.
replace.
He might
Oh,
already be like their most talented wide receiver in like 10 years,
oh no, not over Odell.
7 years. Whenever they traded him,
Whenever they traded Odell, yeah,
yeah,
or let him go, whatever.
it's
But
been a
that
long time since they traded him.
20.
17.
No, it was yeah, 17, something like that, because it was the last year I think that when they lost to the Packers in the playoffs.
2018.
Sure, maybe, probably. I don't know. Whatever it was.
I'm looking at
Reg-
Wikipedia.
got it. Regardless, yes, Malik Neighbors very good. Like outstanding wide receiver, second wide receiver off the board in this draft behind Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, he's definitely like probably their best receiver out of the gate, no matter what. They have
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt, the burner out of Tennessee that they drafted last year. They also have Darius Slayton and Wanda Robinson, who are both are pretty good. Notably, um, oh, what's his name? Darren Waller retired amid his very messy divorce from Kelsey Plum.
I forgot about that. I
Yep.
forgot about that.
So, one of my favorite players, particularly in fantasy, Daniel Bellinger is their starting tight end. He's very good. Um, I don't know. I like the biggest part of this is that they're still employing Daniel Jones. Like it was not a problem 2 years ago. It's a problem now. Battled injury a whole lot last year. So you can't like take that away from him too much, but he also just wasn't good when he was playing last year. And so,
Don't say his name.
I mean, they had Tommy DeVito at one point, Jordan.
God damn
um, and so like it just is. It's interesting for them. It's interesting for them. You know what I mean? Like I mean, it is.
it. I know. It's just a really funny way of saying like I feel
The
I'm probably a little bullish on them than you are because I think talent is talent.
yeah,
I just think they lost more talent and didn't recoup enough of it
I agree.
to be. That's where it's like they're kind of straddling this middle line. Plus, let's be honest. It sounds like Brian Dable's an a-hole,
Yeah.
and people don't like him.
Nope.
Wink Martindale moved on from him,
He went
so
to
they lost
Miami,
a.
right?
He went to Michigan. You're thinking of Vic Fangio, who
Vic
went to
Fangio went
Philly.
from Miami to Philly. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of another a-hole,
Yeah. We'll talk about him in a minute.
yeah, getting Brian Burns win, Darren Waller trade. They traded for him like what 15 months ago, and he's already retired.
Yeah, two seasons ago.
I thought that was
He
2023.
no, he played. Did he only play 1 year? I'll look it up. I thought he.
I think it was only 1 year because I remember talking about. I think we talked about Waller around the 2022
That's
trade
yeah.
deadline.
It was only 1 year. Oh my god.
Yeah, so they have to eat that. They have to eat moving on from Saquon Barkley, who they drafted really high,
Yeah,
and just took a hardline stance with him for reasons.
a couple years.
Uh, and who's the other guy that they obviously Xavier McKinney.
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if Daniel Jones is their quarterback when he's could be the fifth, like among the top five worst quarterbacks starting in
yeah,
the NFL.
yeah.
It's just I don't know. I like their defense a lot. I like Brian Burns and Thibodeau. I think that is a
Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah.
pretty excellent uh, pair of edge rushers.
Mm-hmm. Did I
I think
mention they
their
drafted
defense.
Tyler Nubin?
No, you did not.
Yeah,
I
they
like
drafted
that.
Nubin to replace McKinney.
hmm But yeah, like they still this could easily be a team that Brian Dable might be the first coach fired, and we wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, not at
Or
all.
they hang in there, vie for a wild card spot, 7C, whatever.
That feels like the a 10-foot ceiling for them. Like that just seems 20-foot ceiling maybe. That just seems like a high bar for them to surpass to compete for a playoff spot. I know that they did 2 years ago. I just don't think they have it with that. Like I think they have a lot of pieces. I'm not sure that the pieces on offense are enough to actually do anything this
Is
year.
Devin Singletary their starting running back?
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Mm, yeah.
Like
Mm,
I was a Devin Singletary fan a couple years ago when he played for the Texans, I believe, or the Bills. But he just hasn't had it since. He hasn't had like a good couple of years and a good couple of years. And
yeah.
so um it's just tough sledding for I think this team now. And if you're gonna be one dimensional and making Daniel Jones throw the ball, that's not gonna end well, I don't think. Just because it's
Yeah.
Daniel Jones. It he's prone to mistakes. Is how I'll say that. So
You don't say.
I do say, um, yeah, I think these two, the Commanders and the Giants, fight for the bottom of the barrel of this division.
Oh yeah.
Um, should we move on?
Yes.
Perfect. I realized in that sentence that I spoke really fast. Should we move on? Yes, we should. um, the Philadelphia Eagles, Vic Fangio's defense-led Philadelphia Eagles. Um, it is Nick Sirianni, right? Is
It
their
is.
is their head coach? Yeah, I know.
Kellen Moore is their offense coordinator now.
That is a good get for them. That is a good get for them.
Also might be their head coach in within a year.
Yeah, I know you don't like Nick Sirianni.
No, I don't think it's me. I think it's the players.
I've gotten under the impression that you didn't like him, but regardless of it all, um, their biggest departure this offseason, I think without a doubt, is the retirement of Jason Kelsey. They're all Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winning center, the commander of the tush push, essentially. Like for all intents and purposes.
Also Fletcher Cox too, right?
Yes, I do believe he retired as well. Retired, or for some reason my brain is thinking he went to the Niners, but I don't know if that's accurate. But yeah, I think you are right with Fletcher Cox. Um, but for all intents and purposes, like even though Jalen Hurts is a very strong quarterback, benches 600 pounds often, like Jason Kelsey was like the reason the tush push worked so well for them. And so
Yeah.
that'll be something big taken out of um their playbook most likely. Like they might still do it and have some success with it. I don't think it's gonna have the success rate that uh, they had the last few years while they're running it. There are other big gets this offseason. Obviously, we talked about Saquon Barkley. They signed A.J. Brown to an extension to lock him up for the next few years. A couple other small margin moves, like Devin White, we talked about last episode. Brought in not old friend, but random quarterback alert, Will Greer to back up Jalen Hurts.
And they traded for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I think it was not a significant trade for sure, but um, they signed Bryce Huff from the Eagles as one of their edge rushers, and they also signed Chauncey Gardner Johnson Jr. from the Lions. That's a good get for their secondary as well. So, um, I think a good offseason for the Eagles, frankly.
Yeah, I think they did the weird swap of Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick in a I think they traded
They did trade Reddick
whatever sequence it was. It was
yeah,
they traded Reddick and then they
to the
signed
Jets.
Huff.
Yep.
Yeah. And then basically extended their both of their standout wide receivers, as you mentioned. In the draft, they doubled up on cornerbacks that we were definitely looking at between Quinton Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
That makes me so
Uh,
upset, but yeah.
um, to be fair, I think Cooper DeJean had a foot injury too. Did he get hurt after, or am I misremembering things?
No, he had a foot injury going
It was
into the combine,
yes,
and I don't
that's
think
right.
he participated at the combine, but he did his pro day, I think, and then I I don't know why he fell. Obviously, positionless
Yeah,
football, I don't think worked well for them, but regardless,
I like their offseason. I think obviously based on how far they slid last year, they really had to shake things up. Losing anchors on both the offensive and defensive line hurts.
literally, not not figuratively.
REM. Sorry. Uh, I will not sing that song to avoid breaking everybody's eardrum. Uh, but I just can't wash out the sour taste in my mouth from how, even when they were winning games last year, it was not great. Their point differential was 5.
Yeah, it's not good.
They were winning a lot of close games.
Which
Like
like
they
as good teams are expected to do.
no, not to the level that they were. They were repeatedly in like one score, like 3 point different.
Right.
Like you know what I
They
mean?
also had like a difficult schedule. I'm not trying to be an Eagle
No,
sympathizer,
no, no. I think
but
you're correct. Yeah, but it was just it based on what we saw the year before,
yeah,
where they were hands down the best team in the NFC that year.
yeah.
I just felt like none of what happened after, like as much as it was a like cataclysmic slide, it was not that shocking to me. It was certainly like to see it go from 10-1 or whatever they were, like 9-1, and then just have it finish out the year where they're 11-6, and then get
Well,
bounced out by
I
Tampa Bay.
right. I mean that end of that second half of the season for them was brutal. At Kansas City, at home versus Buffalo and the Niners, at Dallas, at Seattle, and they end with Giants, Cardinals, Giants. So like those last three games were given they dropped 2 of 3, but going 3-2 against those 5 teams. I'm sorry, 2-3 against those 5 teams is I think good enough. Like dropping 2 against the Giants and the Cardinals hurts at the end of the season. If they do that, they're 13-4,
Yeah.
and they had already locked up their playoff spot. They didn't lock up the division, but they locked up their playoff spot, kind of thing. And so I'm with you though that like ending the season at home versus Tampa and scoring 9 points is not good. Like I think,
No, they were out of ideas of how to
yeah,
operate last year. That
yeah,
was kind of, I mean,
for
pretty evident.
yeah, for sure. And so like, yeah, I'm with you that it just didn't look well last year. And don't even want to even call it like a Super Bowl hangover because obviously one, they lost. Two,
They
they
played really
they played
well right
really
after.
well right after. They played really well to start the season. They started the season a 10-1. Like,
Again, even though it was very close games against a more softer schedule compared to how what they
right.
finished up with.
Oh, totally
Yeah,
right. Exactly. But like I said, I think they did what they were supposed to. I think this season, I agree with you that Sirianni's on the hot seat. They have to win their division. I don't think he loses his job for losing the division, but they have to, like, I think make Dallas is really good, dude. Like, I get it. I see your point. I see why you're making that face,
so I'm
but
looking at Dallas's moves right now. Getting ready to talk about them.
I know, but like they still bring back all of the teeth that they had from last year. You know what I mean? I think so. Well, I mean, I guess let's get into it. Let's talk about
Yeah,
Dallas and Philly together then, if that's how we're going to rank this division. They lose Michael Gallup to the Raiders, but like not a super important player for them. He was good, but he was often hurt. They lose Tony Pollard, who was abysmal for them last year. He was not good. They let Zeke walk 2 years ago to let Tony Pollard take the reins, and he wasn't good. They ended up bringing Zeke back to replace Tony Pollard, which is a very funny, uh, I guess, sequence of events. They do lose Dorrance Armstrong Jr. off their line, their defensive line. He goes to the Commanders. Left tackle Tyron Smith, who I think was also hurt last year, goes to the Jets to fix up their line. And then I think Leighton Van Der Esch is still with them. It looks like it.
no,
No, he
he
hasn't
got cut.
resigned yet. He got cut. Okay.
He got cut. Stephon Gilmore got cut. He remains unsigned. Their starting safety, Jaron Curse, got cut, and he still
Right.
remains unsigned.
Right. And so with that, they didn't add a whole lot much either. Eric Kendricks, the former Vikings and Chargers linebacker, like I said, like I mentioned, Zeke, and then Royce Freeman, the former running back for the Rams, signs there as well. Like, for all intents and purposes, I think they're just still the same team on offense. Like, Tony Pollard was a different running back than Zeke is, but I think they have the same effectiveness, frankly. They still have Dak Prescott. They still have CeeDee Lamb. They still have Jake Ferguson. And this offensive line is still going to be good. Like, it's going to be hard, not for the Packers, but it's still going to be hard to like beat this team this year for most teams. Like they got Deron Bland back there. They still have like a Parsons. Like they still have Marcus Lawrence. It's a good team. Trayvon Diggs is there still as well.
Coming back for injury.
Yep. I don't know. Like I get your point. I'll let you make it. I just don't think it's that dire for them.
It's not. I'm gonna push back on that actually. I think a lot of people would have thought after the way the Packers smacked them around,
Yep.
they would have responded with a little bit more urgency.
Yeah.
And now CeeDee Lamb wants a pay raise.
As he should.
Dak Prescott wants an extension.
As he should.
There's just a weird vibes. Weird vibes.
Oh,
They're
I
bringing back like
yeah, I think it's weird vibes, but I think once like push comes to shove, they start playing games. I think that just kind of gets ignored.
I would think so too, but I don't think they will be like I'm just gonna be honest. I thought the Cowboys were the best team on paper against to go up against the 49ers going into the playoffs. I thought Dak Prescott, as much as we laughed at last episode being ranked second MVP voting, I thought it was deserved. I thought he was really good. He just played like crap in the playoffs, obviously. Um, their regular season brilliance is not in question. It's very much like when the you know basketball, if it's the Bucks or a team that does really well in the regular season for a very long time, but they don't go to the conference finals or they don't even make the NBA finals or they don't win the NBA title. Everybody's just like, hot like circles them like wildfire and just goes like, why aren't you better? Why aren't you better? Why don't you win when it matters? And in years past, they've done things to address that. They've moved on from players like Ezekiel Elliott was a very near and dear player to that franchise. He's obviously back now, but like when they moved on from him, it was a big thing because they committed money to him, and it was that was controversial as that deal aged pretty poorly compared to the rest of their cap and all this stuff. I just feel like it's just a very I haven't. I'm sure there's probably a comparison in recent memory, but like I can't remember a team that was clearly like a division winner, a Super Bowl contender that faces a bad loss like that,
That flopped like that.
that flopped like that really bad. I mean, I'm sure people listening to this will probably bring up the Packers, but we also kind of know like
Yeah,
we know the deal when it comes to free agency. But it's the Cowboys. It's
right.
team that's most talked about,
All
whether it's
always.
ESPN or
Right.
yeah, always. I just think it's a weird offseason. And
Mm-hmm.
really like if you look at their draft class too, like they did a lot of like structural ads.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, they got Tyler Guyton, another good spot for
Guyton,
them on their offensive line. Marshawn Nealon, the
uh
edge rusher out of Western Michigan. Connor
Cooper
Beebe.
Beebe.
Yeah, I said Cooper, not Connor. A guard out of Kansas State, like guys we were looking at for the Packers to draft throughout the draft process. Like those three guys were at some point in the Packers mock draft for by a bunch of like Packers media. Like they were all options the
Yeah.
Packers were we thought the Packers should look at. We as in content creators, Packers fans, etc. I will say I don't disagree with all of your points. I think if they have a tough schedule to begin the year. If it starts bad, it could get bad.
See
They,
that's the other thing. They're gonna be playing a first place schedule.
yeah, and they have
Like,
Mike McCarthy's job was not secure coming out of last year. They sniffed around Bill
no.
Belichick. They thought about firing McCarthy. It was probably a tough decision, obviously, but they start their
Yeah.
season first 6 weeks. Cleveland, hard game at away. Um, then they come home versus New Orleans, which should be an easier game for them. Home versus Baltimore, on the road towards New York, at Pittsburgh, and then home versus Detroit for their bye week, week 7. Like they could be 3-3 going into the bye week, which isn't bad, but expectations wise, it would be poor. And so, but
Very, very poor.
it doesn't get easier. They go San Fran, Atlanta, Philly, Houston, 4 in a row in October. Or I'm sorry, in end of October, beginning of November. So yeah,
See, compared to like Philadelphia, who they I would say had a bigger flop, but that was just more gradual rather than sudden like Dallas.
right, because obviously
They
last
didn't
year,
sit on the sidelines.
no, no, the Cowboys ended last year looks like to be 6-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my apologies. They went 7-2 to end the year last year.
Yeah.
So like they were not the number one seed. They were second seed. Um, and got the bricks beat off of by the Packers. Like that's a adjustment. So I don't know. I don't know. I see your point that it might that they're maybe not as good as they used to. Vibes might be off, but I don't think I can convince myself they're not going to win the division this year.
So you'd rank them first.
I think yeah. I think it's Cowboys, Eagles,
And it just
Giant.
falls.
Then it just falls. Giants,
Yeah.
Commanders.
The more we talk about this division, the more I'm lowering the Giants in this.
Yeah,
But if all it takes though is the Cowboys to not be as good at the start of the season, that opens up division games.
yeah, it does.
I'm gonna go Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders. Commanders are not even on the screen.
Right. Audio listeners, Jordan's hand was very high for the Eagles. Lower, not a little bit lower, significantly lower for the Cowboys. Significantly lower for the Giants and the Commanders. All right, folks, time to move on to the NFC North, our home division. Um, Spoiler alert: we're going to talk a little bit about the Packers, but we talked about the Packers in their offseason, all offseason. So we'll preview it, but we won't go too in depth with it as we do our tour. But let's start with the worst team in the NFL, the Chicago Bears. Not by
Yeah,
record,
Barnwell's
but
favorite.
by the dude. He wrote another dog shit article today. It was so bad, man. I just don't know what's going on with content creation at ESPN. It's just bad. Like
I
I'm
had
not
it to you up.
I'm not gonna get into it. It was just it made no sense. Um, Big offseason for them. They draft Caleb Williams one overall with the Panthers pick. Draft Roma Dunze with the ninth pick. Um, that their own pick because he shockingly fell to them after the Falcons did a dumb drafting
Did it?
Michael Penix. Well, they drafted Michael Penix Jr. at 8 when they just signed Kirk Cousins. Like it was for all intents and purposes a dumb move. Um, but they could have had Roma Dunze to put next to Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Who's to say that's not a good idea? I don't know. But uh, like I said, draft Caleb Williams, draft Roma Dunze. They also draft Kieran Ame Ame Gadati out of Yale to tackle. I butchered that man's last name. I am so sorry. Um, and then traded for Keenan Allen from the Chargers and signed DeAndre Swift. He was the first player signed in free agency back in March or April. And then those are kind of like their big moves, right? They did get Kevin Byard from the Eagles in a signing as well. But other than that, like those are their big things. And for all intents and purposes, like Chicago got better this offseason, which is unfortunate because, as always, the Bears suck. Don't like seeing the Bears succeed. Wish them no good things to ever happen.
We don't even know if they've succeeded yet. We don't know.
Who ask Bill Barnwell, Jordan? Uh but they don't resign Yannick Ngakoue. They don't resign Eddie Jackson, both of which still remained unsigned. But they lose. They're traded Justin Fields to the Steelers after that whole fiasco. They lose Bobby Tunyon to the Vikings. A couple of their line pieces are gone, Lucas Patrick and Dan Feeney. And then the running back Donta Foreman, who was like their third string guy last year, goes to the Browns. Um, Other than that, not too much else. They lose Darnell Mooney, but that's not a problem when you place him with Keenan Allen. Obviously, DJ Moore is still there. Like this team got better for sure this offseason.
Yeah, I think they will show market improvement. Um, they will not finish last in the division.
I don't think I'm ready to say that,
I am
but
because I know what's going on in Minnesota right now, and it
yeah,
ain't pretty.
no, it's not. But like Minnesota has, I guess they don't have TJ Hawkinson for some part of the year too. Talked about that last episode, and Jordan Addison might get suspended. So yeah, it's probably the Vikings. It's like 95% sure the Vikings, like in a vacuum, with injuries notwithstanding. But yeah, it's I could see the Bears being last. Like if the adjustment to the NFL just has Caleb Williams in a blender, like sometimes it does for all rookie QBs. That is a certain possibility. Um, I'm not like leaning on DeAndre Swift to help carry that team if Caleb Williams needs time to acclimate to the NFL. Because I think he's going to be like
No,
not a target as in like they're targeting him, but he's the number one overall pick and has a lot of hype around him. Guys are gonna
yeah,
want to get home.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I think that is going to be baked in. People, edge rushers are going to try to
Get after
basically
him.
slap him around,
Yeah,
get after him. Um, yeah, like obviously the offensive line question has always been the biggest thing for the Bears beyond just having a quarterback because it's one thing to have a quarterback, but it's another thing to protect them, and they just have never had a coherent offensive line. Coherent, I mean, competent, but that both apply. Um, but their defense is legitimately what could carry them. This could be like I think between making the trade for Montez Sweat, which immediately paid dividends, they
yep.
extended slash resign, whatever you want to call it, Jalen Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
They have highly impactful players on this roster. they're younger. I don't think everything that they did this offseason is going to pay off. I mean, we talked about the Bill Barnwell article. I think the more I think about the Keenan Allen trade, I think there's a lot more risk to it than I thought when that initially happened. I
Mm-hmm.
think it could easily just fall off, and who's to say it, but they have more than just one receiver rather than just it's Keenan Allen that has to lift up a sagging, receiving core.
Right.
But yeah, I think this team is going to be better. How much better? How consistent are they? Matt Eberflus, I'm still kind of like
Yeah.
I don't have a good read on him. I think this is year three.
Yes, I believe that is right. Because they
Um,
had some other not good coach there for Justin Fields' first year. I forget who
why
it
can I
was.
not? Oh, Matt Nagy.
Yeah, Matt Nagy was their coach their first year, and then they
Mm,
fired him and then hired Eberflus.
doink.
Doink.
Yeah, Bears will be better. Well,
They should
yeah.
be, yeah. They should be. Um, Following up them last year, I guess ahead of them was the Minnesota Vikings. Um, Big offseason for them. They lose Kirk Cousins after they don't give him an extension. He obviously goes to the Vikings, or I'm sorry, to the Falcons. They lose Daniel Hunter to the Texans. The Texans and the Vikings swap good defensive players. The Texans got Daniel Hunter, excuse me. The Vikings got Blake Cashman and Jonathan Greenard from the Texans, just via free agency signings, not actual trades like it had sounded like. Um, they end up getting Aaron Jones, as we well documented over the offseason. They draft um, JJ McCarthy out of Michigan at like I think 10 overall. I forget what that pick was. Um, it was 10. Yeah, 10th overall, and then they signed Sam Darnold to be like probably the starter this year because I don't think JJ McCarthy is NFL ready, frankly. And it doesn't seem like they think either. They lose Dean Lowry to the Steelers. They lose Jordan Hicks, their linebacker, to the Browns. They lose their kicker Greg Joseph to the Packers, who's on like a half camp deal kind of thing. They do sign as like barely a helpful position right now. Could be more helpful. Trent Sherfield from the Bills, as like we said, Jordan Addison likes to drive his car irresponsibly. They don't re-sign their like franchise. I don't want to say face of the franchise, but they had Anthony Barr. Obviously, he's not with them anymore. Um, KJ Osborne leaves. He was good for them last year. I, I I'm with you that this team got significantly worse this year for sure.
Yeah, I really think this might be among the top three worst teams this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be uh I think bad for them. I think it's gonna be
I
pretty
think
bad.
the whole
Which
their
honestly, sorry,
roster.
go
No,
ahead.
you.
I'll say which honestly isn't bad for them. Like if they're bad and let JJ McCarthy develop under Darnold, if they commit to just letting McCarthy work this year and not try to compete, then you have a top three pick next year for a stud somewhere on the team, whether that's line or defense or something. That being bad this year isn't a bad thing for them.
No, I mean they addressed their biggest question of Justin Jefferson extended,
Yep.
but there's just been a lot of bad vibes. I mean, quite honestly, their fourth round draft pick this year got killed in a car accident, and then a
Yeah,
week later,
it's
Jordan
really
Addison
bad.
gets arrested for a DUI. Like,
It's not. Excuse me. Sorry, I was dying there. Yeah, it's the Kyrie Jackson, I believe is his name. I better double check that to make sure I'm not
no,
being
you're right.
mad disrespectful. Yeah, Kyrie Jackson passing in that car accident was very very tragic. Yeah, it's been a bad off season, a bad couple weeks for them for sure. And so hopefully they can like figure it out and try and at least have a level head when it comes to expectations for this year. Like I don't think they're expecting to lose, obviously, but
No,
um, it's
I think too. Part of the problem that I have is that a lot of the guys that they have brought in, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Jonathan Greenard is more established, but a lot of those guys had really career years that
Yeah,
they're paying big bucks in free agency that I just think is not going to pay off. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, yeah, for every one of those kind of signings, they strike it rich with Aaron Jones, but objectively speaking, we all know that he's had durability issues.
Hmm.
Does he play through a 17 game season? The quarterback situation is abysmal. Like Sam Darnold, I agree with you. I think he starts the year. The JJ McCarthy thing, I have no idea how that's going to go. I think it's going to go poorly, but
Yeah, I just don't think they can rule him out this year. I think it'd be irresponsible.
it would be
Like,
irresponsible.
I am not a JJ McCarthy believer. I'm on the record about that. I do not think he's an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
If the Vikings do think he's an NFL quarterback, they should take a page out of the Packers' book and just let him develop for a year or two. Like, I think it's a year. You can't draft a guy at 10 and let him sit for 2 years behind a meddling starting quarterback like Sam Darnold's probably going to be, and with Justin Jefferson on the roster. Like, I think Jay Jetta's, I would hope, has the wherewithal and the, excuse me, and the understanding that they just can't throw Sam Darnold to the Wolves, or JJ McCarthy to the Wolves right away. Be patient for a year. They don't have TJ Hawkinson for part of the year with his recovery from an ACL injury. Who knows what Jordan Aston's going to go through with his DUI? Like, just let this team kind of, I guess, simmer and develop a bit and just kind of get in there right for next year. And you hope that JJ McCarthy comes in and is a good quarterback to help lead the team.
Yeah, I just yeah, I don't know. I
I
am not
I'm very afraid that they are gonna put JJ out there week one.
I think that'd be a bad idea.
I think it would be too, but I think it might be what happens.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's also just an indictment of Kirk Cousins got hurt and they didn't have another solution. And
Nope.
that sometimes that is just the breaks,
That
you
just
know.
that is how it breaks. Like yeah, that's just how it has to be sometimes. You can't.
These are the breaks.
And obviously like their GM could have extended them. They had extension talks 2 off seasons ago now, and they never came to anything. And like for all intents and purposes, that's probably not a bad decision by the Vikings because he's a 36, 37-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. And the Falcons are willing to take that risk, and clearly the Vikings were not.
I will say you're correct. It is better to probably be to, you know,
Wipe
wipe
your
your
hand.
hands clean of that.
Yep.
However, it's not a franchise that has been flushed with competent quarterbacks.
No.
For every Dante Culpepper, or even going back, and I'm going back a ways, like Fran Tarkington. There's been the Case Keenums, the
Case Keenum
Christian
made an NFC
Ponders.
Championship.
He did, but I'm just saying
Oh,
it
I
would
agree.
not shock me if they get back on the treadmill carousel of quarterbacks.
It wouldn't surprise me either. Like I said, I'm not a JJ McCarthy believer,
No.
and so I think like in my mind, it's a lose lose for them because you can't keep Kirk Cousins. Like it's just not responsible for the Vikings to pay him that money um, at his age with his injury history. Like that's just how it is, unfortunately
Yeah.
for them. But at the same time, they could have not drafted JJ McCarthy. But I don't think. I guess when did Justin Jefferson sign his extension? Was it pre or post draft?
I believe it was just like a couple weeks ago.
I think you're right. When did that happen? I'm trying to find.
June 3rd.
Okay, so the situation arises that if they don't draft the quarterback, does he sign an extension? You know what I mean? Like, you have to make sure he's happy with the direction of the team and him sign his extension. He's their best player. And so, if they are bad for a year, like it, I think it. I don't know. This is getting all way too in the weeds for just like a recap of what's happened in the offseason. But like, I don't think next year's quarterback class is any good whatsoever. And so maybe they just wanted to get their quarterback now in a good quarterback class and hope that McCarthy pops for them. I don't know. Which is why I said that being bad this year isn't bad for them. If they're just bad this year,
No.
get a top 3 pick in the draft and draft your top tackle, edge rusher, or if you really want to go after the fella at Ohio State, Amika, I forget his last name, but the other guy, the other really good Ohio State wide receiver, it wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr. There was Amika something. Um, go get him that way too. But like being bad this year is probably good for them to go get a stud to fill a hole that they're gonna have on this team, and then go for it next year.
Yeah.
So, all right, enough about the Vikings. Let's go on to the Packers. Second in the NFC North last year, obviously started off 2-5. If I'm not mistaken, right, Jordan? That is that is what they started, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because they had
Yeah.
that really unfortunate losing streak in the middle of the season throughout October. Um, Obviously, big things this offseason. They signed Xavier McKinney in free agency. They signed Josh Jacobs in free agency. They end up, like we had mentioned, losing Aaron Jones. We've talked about it all. They got not better, but they definitely got better on defense. They lose Devondre Campbell, but adding Xavier McKinney is good for them.
Yeah, just look at it's not a lot of moves, but a lot of the players that they moved on from. It's Devondre Campbell, John Runyon Jr. was a starter. Jonathan Owens was a starter by the end of the season, but a limited one at that. Aaron Jones, it sucks, but they move on from him.
Yep.
Yash Nyman, Josiah DeGuara, Darnell Savage. You kind of look at all these names and you look at it and just kind of think about it. And obviously Bakhtiari too, they move on from at least. It is unequivocally a better offseason. They got
Yeah.
talent.
They got a lot
They
better.
got useful talent. And the fact that we're talking about free agency splashes is notable with the Packers, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The draft is what it is. Jordan Morgan was the first round pick, but get deeper and look at what they did. I think it's a lot of on paper, it's not it's solid draft picks. It's not overwhelming draft picks. How much of those guys contribute to this team this season? I would think it's minimal, but that's more a reflection on how much this roster is ascending versus an indictment on the draft picks themselves.
Yeah, I think the top three all all probably contribute this year. Jordan Morgan, Edwin Cooper, and Javon Bulliard probably all contribute this year in some way, shape, or form at a meaningful level. But they had 11 picks, so there'll be options for them throughout training camp to see what these guys are all about. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
the biggest thing for them, Jordan Love's extension. We hope to be talking about that soon. That's for damn sure. All right, let's move on to the last team in the North, the Detroit Lions. Um, they signed.
Detroit football, right?
All
Do they
right,
do that?
what's that?
Well, instead of Detroit basketball, they did
Ah,
Detroit football.
gotcha.
There you
Um, they signed Jared Goff to a very big extension that was like one of the first of the offseason, I'm pretty sure, like the QB extensions, because it was Goff and then I think Lawrence. I think
go. I
those are
think
the only
so.
two we got. We haven't gotten Dak. We haven't gotten Love. I forget. Regardless, big deal for Jared Goff. They signed Carlton Davis, a cornerback, or I'm sorry, they traded for Carlton Davis from the Buccaneers. They signed DJ Reader, an interior defensive lineman from the Bengals. They signed Marcus Davenport from the Vikings, as we had just talked about. They do lose Cam Sutton to the Steelers, not a big deal. He wasn't too good for them last year. Lose Josh
I also
Reynolds.
think there are some off the field incidents that
Oh,
contribute to
that's
that.
right. I remember that. Yeah. That wasn't good. That was very bad actually. They lose. Josh Reynolds, their like third string receiver to the Broncos. He was good in spurts for them, not like outstanding, but
He's
good in
been
spurts.
he's been better than Jameson Williams
He has
on the whole. On the
on the
whole,
whole, on the whole. They signed Amik Robinson, a quarterback, to replace Cam Sutton. Um, Other than that, not too much uh with them. They signed oh, I'm sorry, they lost Joe Jackson, the left guard from what you call it. Um, they lost Joe Jackson to the Rams, is what I was going to say.
I'm looking up their draft class because I'm suddenly forgetting who they selected. They took Tyrion Arnold. That's right, yeah, Tyrion Arnold
Yeah.
from Alabama, and then they took Ennis Rakestraw. So they doubled up like the Eagles did in the secondary, a secondary that needed doubling up on too. Like
Mm-hmm.
we all kind of knew that that was going to be the case when they had CJ Gardner Johnson last year. He was hurt for a lot of it, so like it made sense to even go, address that need. I think for them, obviously keeping the continuity largely for what it is a win. That goes for their coaching staff with Ben Johnson asking for like the Pentagon and all this stuff when the Commanders wanted him. Um,
God.
um, but I'm sure there'll be some people like, oh, can they do it again? It's the Lions, all that stuff. I think they're just really good. They're really good.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff, the extension itself, the number is going to probably scare off people for the rest of the time just because it's Jared Goff. And, the fact that he was this underwhelming first overall pick to start his career has never really washed that fully off,
Mm-hmm.
even though he almost went to his second Super Bowl last year. Um, yeah, I think, are we ranking or we're not ranking,
No, we are
correct?
not ranking. That is, we are
But
we are teasing you all. We're gonna rank them at the end of training camp when we do that roundup before the season starts.
okay, yeah, I'll hold off. I'll hold off.
That's right. But yeah, I think
But
they're really
yeah,
they're really good as well.
I would say I think really like they had the probably the biggest losses is Jackson, Jordan Jackson, but they replaced him with Kevin Zeitler.
Mm-hmm.
This team's just gonna be good.
They're just gonna be good. That's all there is to it. So, all right, folks, that is the tour of the NFL. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can grab your picture of the ride at the end of the line as you make your way through the queue. Um, we'll be back very soon to talk about hopefully a Jordan Love extension, as well as a training camp preview before training camp starts on Monday. So keep refreshing those
Monday.
podcast feeds there. Um, Let us know how you guys think the division is going to shake out before we give our predictions later this month or later next month. Um, and yeah, thanks for listening. Check out gspn.info for all things GSPN and sign up for the Substack. Jordan, you are grabbing your mic as if you have something to say.
No, I just thought it looked funny visually.
Got it.
Sorry, that was very confusing.
No, you're good. Um, Check out the premium feed with the GSPN After Dark. There is a very special anniversary coming up on Saturday, and so we have a very
What's
special.
that?
It's the 3-year anniversary of the Bucks winning the NBA Finals. So I know unavailable to make the pod, but there's me. I'm pretty sure a 5-man primo pod talking about the anniversary and recollecting the. No, this will come out after that. So yeah, go check out the primo to listen to the primo about the anniversary of the Bucks winning the finals and all the other great things we got going on over there. Jordan is about to post a Jordan Love story as well, talking about him. He also sprinkled in a bit of dip the pen, as you will, not sprinkle, but dip the pen on the Buck signing Gary Harris Jr. That's his name, right? Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent Jr.
You
Not Gary
combined
Harris.
Gary Harris Jr. with
I
Gary
did.
Trent
I
Jr.
did. Um, but yeah, you know the deal, the spiel. Check out all the GSPN podcasts. We'd appreciate it. Go subscribe if you really want our appreciation. Other than that, like I said, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you. You know what's really funny is Gary Harris is a junior.
So I was right and wrong at the same time. Lovely way to end the pod. See you later,
I had
everybody.
to. Bye.